Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our first live online class that we are doing while we are temporarily closed for our executive orders. Today, we're just going to jump right in. Today, we are going to go through some basic baking tips, and then I'm going to show you how to put filling in a cake and how to ice a cake with some buttercream. Okay? So, as I said, let's jump right in here. Hopefully I have most of this ready. So, I have some batter already mixed up. Alright? And just real quick, no, I am not giving out my cake recipes. Okay? However, I will give you some basic tips. Whether you're using box mix, scratch, whatever, some things that I've found helpful over the years: mix all of your wet ingredients first. Your eggs, if you're using milk, I've heard of some people melting ice cream even to use for their liquid base. Whatever it is that you're using, if you're using water, whatever, mix all of that together first. Make sure everything's incorporated really well. Put any flavorings that you're going to do, put those in there too, okay? But then have all your dry ingredients, your flour, your sugar, cocoa powder, anything at all that you're mixing in. If you've got other, could you be using like the Nestle Quick, I don't even know if they still make the strawberry mix, but you could be using that for some flavoring. Some freeze-dried fruits, for example, if you were mixing that in. Mix all of that together, your baking soda, everything, in a big Ziploc bag. Shake it all together real well. And one thing, even if you're using a box mix, nothing wrong with that. I do some box, some scratch. If you are using a box mix, though, or with your regular, either or, highly recommend sift your dry ingredients into your wets. Okay? Yes, even with a box mix, still sift it. I just use, well, here I'll show you. It's still a little dirty from this morning, but you can see my cocoa powder and stuff went through. But I just use a big strainer, colander, and a whip. And just sift everything through that. Okay? There we go. Now, to prep my pan, I just use some Simple Pam spray. Spray that in there. And this is a parchment circle, okay? I have these, even before I had the store, I was still buying them in the pre-cut circles. I can't even tell you the time it saves if you're doing a lot of cakes. But you can buy just a roll of parchment and cut them to size. Just set your pan down on it, trace around it, and then cut that out. That works absolutely fine too. There you can see I've just put it down in the bottom. That is literally, whoops, all I do to prep it, okay? So then you want to take your batter and put that down in. I have never, ever actually physically measured batter to tell you that you need X cups. Okay, if you really need to know that, do water, okay? Put water in, measure out. I, however, have always just went by sight. You basically want your pan right around 2/3 full, okay? Just a minute, I gotta switch gloves out here. Got a bunch of batter on that. And no, this is not just for film. I always wear gloves when I'm baking. Habit I got into over the years because while I was baking, I was in a licensed kitchen. Okay. So once you got this all set, and the first time you do this, you're going to kind of freak out the hubby or the kids, but bang it. And I'm not doing this gently. You can probably hear the echoing. that is doing is raising the air bubbles up. All right. It gets helps get all the wormholes that you get sometimes when you cut into your cake. Okay, this is a bake even strip. Okay, I have several different lengths cut. Here, I'll wrap it this way, you guys can see it fits around there. Now you do want to get this wet. Give me one quick minute. I did forget to get this wet before we started. Let me get that wet and then I'll be right back. Okay, I got that wet with some cold water and I literally just wrung it out like that in the sink, okay? So you want it damp, but not super wet. And then you're gonna wrap it around tightly. This, I'll put it up against my hand and hopefully you can see it against that. This is just a T-pin that you get from the office supply store. Okay, and you want to put that in basically backwards against, alrighty? So I'm going to have one of my camera assistants go throw this in the oven. There we go. And by the magic of TV, here we have our cake already baked. Now this one, this is my plastic bag. I'll show you that in just a sec, what I actually do with that. So, if this literally had just come out of the oven, I would take my cardboard, which this is just a regular cake cardboard. I have covered it with standard aluminum foil. Nothing fancy going on there. Okay? Then, when it comes out of the oven, I press it down, all right? And grab the ad bay. I get no kickbacks for this. I do not sell these in the store. Go to agbay.com, A-G-B-A-Y. If you do cakes, this is the best Mother's Day, Christmas, birthday, whatever present that you can ask your significant other for. Or treat yourself. You will love this. Okay? Now, my cake is actually, I had it pretty close and it didn't rise up like I wanted it to. But normally, I would just leave it in the pan, shave across the top of it, okay? And as soon as I do that, take my knife, run around the edge, and I do seriously do this while as soon as they come out of the oven, okay? You don't want to leave them sitting in the pan. That pan is hot, it's going to keep cooking, all right? Flip it and get it right out of your pan, okay? As soon as I have done that, I immediately go into a plastic bag. I know most people, when I tell them this, they get this look of horror and are like, oh my gosh, the cake's still hot. Absolutely, the cake is still hot. 7th or 8th grade science class, thinking back in the day, what is steam? Steam is moisture. We want to keep that moisture in there and lock it in. So, once I do that, I let them sit like that overnight to cool, okay? Once they have done that, take them out. Here's my parchment circle. It just peels right up off there. Super quick and easy. Okay. And now this one, before I do anything with it, I'm actually going to cut that top off. So on these levelers, one really cool thing, hopefully you can see that, there's actually rulers on each side of it. I'll sit still so hopefully you can see. So you can line these up and you literally, these blades are so sharp, you can literally cut off like 1/8 or 1/16 of an inch of your cake to level it, okay?
We have a question.
Oh, we have a question, okay.
What was the website again for the cake cutter?
The cake cutter is Agbay, A-G-B-A-Y. And I will forewarn you before you get there and have a little sticker shock. They are well over $100. I have had this one over 20 years. I have never changed the blade, literally, not lying to you. I cannot tell you what a difference this makes. Highly, highly, highly recommend them. Okay, I just reset this down 1/8 of an inch, just because I want to show you. These things literally... You truly can shave that much off your cakes. Okay? Love my egg bake. Alright, a second here. Crumbs cleaned up a little bit. Okay, so then I have a Lazy Susan, and I've got to grab my non-skid. This is just some non-skid that you buy in the, like over by the laundry baskets and stuff in most stores. Comes in a roll. I put a piece underneath, piece there on top. That keeps everything, now it won't slide around. Okay? And here is my other cake that I baked. So I made 2 of them yesterday for us. I put this on, this is just a cake drum, okay? If you're going to use your own cardboards, I really recommend always use at least 2. I personally don't do anything with less than 3. But that's one thing, if I can ever stress, don't skimp on your boards, okay? Trust me, they're not a huge money maker for any store selling them. We're not trying to get more money out of you when we recommend this. It really, if that cardboard buckles, you're going to get cracks in your cake. So it's literally change that you're talking to keep your cake supported. So always, always, always worry about your support underneath, okay? That is the base. You need a solid foundation for any cake. All right, I'm just scraping off some of the excess crumbs that have fallen down here. And of course, when we do it live, I have the most crumbs I've ever seen on one of my cakes. Because why not, right? All right. So, we have cake ready. And because my son is running the camera, and what goose wants, goose gets sometimes, he wants some raspberry filling in here, so we're putting some raspberry filling in. There's all kinds of pre-made sleeves of filling. Yeah, absolutely, you can make your own. You can flavor buttercream. You can just put buttercream in there. It's personal preference. Kind of do what you want to do here. All right. And I have already made up some icing this morning. I really did not think anyone was going to want to sit and watch and listen to the mixer running. Sinks that way if you didn't guess. So, with our icing here, I do want to talk a couple things about the icing. And we were running close to time to turn the video on, so I did not let this run as long as normal. However, when you're mixing your icing, if you notice when I pulled my beater out of there, normally you want to be sure that the icing itself, all your ingredients, are up over the top of your blade, okay? And reason for that, that's a good one. You don't want to pull air down into don't want to pull any air down, in excess air down into your icing, okay? All right, and my son's sitting here debating. He hears the phone ringing. We're not going to answer it. Sorry if you hear that. I thought we had all the ringers shut off, but that was my bad. Okay, give me 1 second, because part of my prep, I forgot to get my tips out to do this.
You want to do the giveaway?
So, I am going to actually, while I'm getting this ready to fill up, we have a surprise! We're doing a giveaway while you're here too, okay? We have been writing down names off to the side of people as they have joined us this morning. And thank you so much for joining us. So, we randomly picked out...
Oh, don't do it yet. Or just let them know.
Give us a second.
What?
Just a second.
Just a second. Technical difficulty.
Okay, we're having technical difficulty on this. Hopefully by the time I show you this, they'll be ready. So, we're going to give away a few things that we're going to show today. I have some pre-made buttercream icing, a 3-pound tub. We're going to give you an icing spatula, and then a bench scraper, which we're going to use as part of the icing. I'm going to show you that here in a minute. And then also, they didn't grab them, but I'm going to give you a set of the wraps to put on your pans. Okay? Do we have our name?
We do.
Yes, we do.
We do. We have a winner. It is
Tina.
Yo
Lindsay.
Tina, I'm going to screw up the is it Yo or Ye? Oh my gosh.
Y-E-O.
It's Tina Lindsay from Hometown Heating. Yay, Tina! Woohoo! So, we actually know Tina real well. She's one of our neighbors in Parma. And they own Hometown Heating. Another small business, support local. Okay. So, loading our bag. I do this without thinking sometimes. You guys see this. So, I'm folding the bag down. And then putting my hand basically inside the reverse. Hopefully you guys can see. So there's our tip down there that we put on. And there's our opening. We are going to put some icing in. And the reason I've got my hand in there holding, I'm going to squeeze that against my spatula to get my frosting on there. And then squeeze that down. Okay? One thing you want to do after you put frosting in your bag is what's called burp your bag. Okay? So if you sit here and just kind of randomly squeeze it a few times, typically, if you got an air bubble in there, you're going to hear it. And it will literally make a little kind of whoosh sound for you. Okay?
We have a couple questions.
Oh, we have a couple questions. Okay.
So, Nicole Schaefer asked, what is a good recipe for icing?
What is a good recipe for icing? I have a recipe that we print out here in the store. I will get that posted once we are done. I'll put it in the comments, so come back. Give me probably 15-20 minutes and I will get some of this stuff posted for you, okay?
And then also, what tip are you using?
What tip am I using? Thank you, I'm so sorry. I forgot to share that. This is a tip 12, okay? And I did not mention, this is a coupler that I put down in. Couplers have two pieces to them, okay? We have the top that basically looks like a little nut. And then you put the larger piece inside your bag, and then your tips will sit down on that. And then you screw this together. Okay? Now, when I'm squeezing, if you notice, I filled the bag up with more than, a fairly good amount. I'm going to kind of pinch that in between my thumb and my first finger twist the bag, and then squeeze. Reason for that, and this is one of the biggest things that I stress to people when they're getting started. If you squeeze way up here, you're going to be straining your wrist, okay? Probably one of the biggest, I guess, injuries that I see from cake decorators over the years, they will get carpal tunnel, all right? Please do not squeeze bags this full. You basically want what comfortably fits in your fist to squeeze, okay? Again, I've got that between my thumb and my finger. I twisted it a couple times, and then I'm going to squeeze. My son's trying to tell me something and he won't just...
You're left-handed.
Oh, yes, I am left-handed. I can, however, pipe right-handed too. I've taught myself this over the years. One thing you will find while I'm doing this, a lot of what I do, I've been told I've kind of forced myself to do it the direction that right-handed people work, even though I'm left-handed. Typically, most left-handed decorators will pipe their borders and stuff the opposite direction. A lot of people don't know that I'm left-handed because I pipe mine the same direction right-handed people do. So, for what that's worth. Okay, so we've got our icing in there. I've squeezed it down to a smaller amount, okay? So I'm not going to strain my wrist and hurt anything. Then, you can just sit still or you can utilize your tools. And I'm just running around this a couple times. Okay? And what you're doing basically is building what's called a dam of icing to stop your filling from running out the edge. Okay? So, snipping off the end of our filling. Now with the fillings, they don't need to be refrigerated before they're opened. Once they are open, then you do need to refrigerate them. Okay? And I will show you guys real quick exactly what I do with them to refrigerate. And use a Ziploc bag. Push all this back down. Twist it a couple times. And voila, we are ready for the fridge. Okay, once in the refrigerator, your jelly, jam type fillings are good for up to 45 days once refrigerated. Your creams, your Bavarian cream, there's a coconut filling, cream cheese filling, any of those, I would not go any longer than 30 days with them, okay? So then once you've got this on, you just want to take your spatula, run that around, just to spread it out. And if you want to do a couple different flavors in here, something used to be really, really popular when I was doing cakes actively, I would do a cream cheese mousse and layer that with some of the filling. And I'll give you guys a little tip here for those watching. For a really, really easy mousse recipe, some heavy whipping cream. Have some here, we'll show you. Maybe. Heavy whipping cream. And do I have any? This will work. This one's sugar-free, but you don't have to use sugar-free. Just a package of some pudding, instant pudding mix. You can also add in some softened cream cheese, but mix that all together, and it makes an amazing filling, okay? Obviously, you can do all your different flavors with your different puddings.
And then we have a question.
We have a question,
There are
okay.
a couple of them.
Couple questions, okay.
Do you sell filling at our store?
Yes, we do sell the filling here.
And then do you sell a complete kit to make a cake like this?
Do we sell a complete kit to make this cake?
Yes.
We sell all of the supplies. I don't do a lot of pre-made kits purely because I know some people may have gotten a spatula over the years for different things, or you may already have a bench scraper at home. So I like to keep things individualized. Same thing with my tips. We do have a few sets for the tips themselves, but I still like to have everything individually available, just so if you've already got it, I don't want you wasting your money on something duplicated. Okay? So once we've got our filling all set in there, I'm going to take our cut side and put that down. And then I'm just going to push this down a little bit. Okay? There we have our cake. And now I am going to hop over to the other side here so Eric can zoom in, because I will be working right over in this area. Whoops. A couple crumbs caught in there. And then you guys can watch me ice it. Okay?
A little farther.
Okay. Now, if everybody would give us a little bit of feedback, are we zoomed in enough where you can see? Right in here's where I'm going to be working quite a bit. Okay. I'm going to show you first how to crumb coat, and I will be very honest with you, I do not normally do this anymore. Just over the years I've gotten to where I don't pull crumbs in, but I do want to show you guys how to do it. Okay? So, if you notice, I just grabbed basically a glob of icing. Okay? The one thing when you are frosting your cakes, and this is something you've just got to work with your icing to get in the habit of this, you want to try and keep icing out in front of your spatula. Okay? So if I keep going and just let this pull away, I'm going to pick up a bunch of crumbs. That's okay right now because we're doing our crumb coat. But if I were up here working and just pushing that icing as I was starting to run out of icing, go backwards. And I'll be stressing this a little bit more when we're actually icing, putting the main icing on the cake, okay? But you'll notice even while I'm doing this, it's just a habit I've gotten into. Even putting this crumb coat on, I'm still going to just keep the icing out in front of my spatula. Oops. Get that out of your way. So with the crumb coat, we are putting on a very, very thin layer. You can still see the cake through it. And I'm just pulling this frosting down from the top that come over the edge as well. You want this way? Mm-hmm. Better? Mm-hmm. All right.
We've had a couple people ask, where do we order these items?
Okay, where do we order these items? We are shipping daily still at www.cakeconnection.com. Okay, there should be a link on our Facebook page when you're done watching the video. I will go back and try and make sure at the end I will put some comments in and add links to the products that we're using so you can find them a little easier. Most of these items are general decorating supplies. Okay? So now once I've got the crumb coat on, I do want to take one of my bench scrapers and I just want to get this excess icing. Let's see, I'll do it from this angle. Maybe you guys can see a little bit better here. Okay. Now for our local customers, I'm sure most of you already realize this, we are not open to walk-in traffic right now, per the governor's executive orders. We are, however, if you want to call in or place an online order, you can come do pickup. And what we're doing with that is just having everything ready. When you get here, call us. We will hang it on the door for you. And you can walk up and get it, so that way there is no contact going on. All right? So, there we have our crumb-coated cake. Again, nothing fancy. We're just sealing all the crumbs in. Okay? So, let's frost the cake. I personally start with the top on mine. You do not have to. You can kind of figure out what works for you. Some people will start with the sides first and then come up to the top. This, honestly, is just what I've done over the years. Okay. I do like the offset spatulas myself. Reason being, you're not going to risk getting your knuckles caught in the icing when you're going back and forth on your bigger cakes, your sheet cakes type thing. Again, though, find what works for you, okay? They do come where they just are completely flat. It's just a preference thing, and work with what works for you, okay? So, once I start icing, now again, if you notice, this is where I was talking about. Keep the icing in front of your spatula, okay? So as it starts to run out, go backwards and lift off. You don't want to get in the habit of just pulling up like this as you're going around, okay? If I pull up here, if I didn't have frosting already here, you easily would start pulling off crumbs. And that's what we don't want to do. Okay? Now, if you notice, I am not moving this hand while I'm frosting this, okay? Let your tools work for you. All right? So you can already see the top of this is already nice and smooth. Okay? So now, let's work on our sides. Okay. One of the reasons I personally prefer to work with the longer spatulas, they are taller than my cake. All right? Now, many people, when they're getting started, they like using the smaller ones. It is in a way, it's easier to control, especially if you're doing a smaller cake. I will say, if I'm doing like a 6 or 4 inch round cake for any reason, I will use my smaller spatula to do the sides of those, just because you've got less icing and it's a little bit easier to control. But on my bigger cakes, I do like my longer spatula. Okay, so I'm getting a nice healthy blob on there. And again, I'm keeping the icing out in front. As I was starting to run out up here, I stopped. I'm going back, getting some more frosting, starting back here where it's already iced. Okay, I'm about out of frosting. I'm going to go backwards and lift off. Go get some more icing. And go back. I'm about out again. We're going to go get some more. Okay? I know it's all a learning curve, but if there's just any habit I can get you started with, lift off on top of icing. Don't ever pull your spatula off. Well, here, I'm going to do one just to show you what it's going to do. Okay? So if I come out here and do this, I'm going to pull crumbs back in there, okay? If you do that, just clean your spatula off. There. Now we're crumb free again, and we'll just treat that area as part of our crumb coating, okay? So I'm back on the area I already iced, and we're going forward. Okay, once I've got that on there, and again, note, I am holding my spatula completely still. I am letting my turntable do the work for me. Okay? And in comes the bench scraper. So, I am resting this on my board down here to keep it level. I know that's going to give me a mark from stopping there. But reach around. I'm not pushing very hard at all. I'm just doing lightly. And we're pulling that off. Okay? Look how nice that looks. Hopefully you guys can zoom in enough to see. There's still a few more tricks and tips I'm going to give you to get it smoothed out even more. But that literally is just a bench scraper and smoothing it out, okay? So, next thing, obviously we've got a bunch of icing up here at the top, all right? I really don't have a good way to give a description on how to do this other than practice, 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 what I'm about to show you, okay? You basically have to envision a flat surface extending past the top of your cake, okay? Slice it, scrape it on your bowl, clean that edge, go to your next spot, okay? Start out past your edge, scrape in and lift up. Can you see in there a little bit maybe? Where my marks are, that's where I'm lifting up as I come in. Don't start down and come up, okay? So what you don't want to do is be on an angle like this with your spatula. You want to run straight, be in line with the top of your cake, okay? You're just slicing that, wiping the excess, do your next one. Okay, where I've got heavier, it's going to come right off there, no problem. Okay, so then once I've done that, then I'm very, very lightly, I'm barely pressing. I'm just more so letting the top of that just glide along there. I'm going back and re-smoothing that.
Now we have one more question.
Okay, we have a question. What do we got?
How long do you mix your buttercream for?
Oh, awesome question. Thank you. I let my buttercream mix for roughly 10 minutes after I have all the ingredients incorporated in. I will scrape it down, make sure everything's blended together from the bottom of the bowl. But then I flip my mixer up on high and literally walk away for about 10 minutes. The whole idea and notion of that kind of freaks people out. I cannot even explain to you how creamy and soft your icing gets. It may seem like it's too stiff when you first mix it up. Once you turn that blender up on high and just let it run, or your mixer, I'm sorry, just let it run, you will get like butter smooth icing, unless you don't have the icing below your, above your paddle, okay? Now here I'm just going back and wiping off some of the excess frosting on there that didn't scrape up so well. Okay. So now, depending on what I was doing with decorating, very honestly, I might just go ahead and decorate at this point. However, we do have a couple other tricks we can show you. Just a minute here. Got to grab a couple things. All right. If you are not already familiar, this is a fondant smoother. Okay. And Viva paper towels. So we got something on there, so I'm going to pull that first one off and throw it away. And the reason I'm stressing Viva, they're smooth. They don't have marks in them. They don't have the little quilt patterns. This is my cheap clean my blades off with. This is the one the kids always knew. You touch it and I'll oop ya. Leave Mama's Viva alone. Eric's standing behind the camera laughing because yes, it's true. Okay. So once your icing sits, normally, whoops, Eric's motioning. Do we have a question?
Yes.
Whoops.
Oh, no, you're good. No, we don't.
Is this a crusting buttercream icing?
Is this a crusting buttercream? Yes, it does crust. How I use for when I make my icing, I do half butter and half high ratio shortening. So it does crust, but depending on how much liquid you put in, I put milk in mine. So, you know, like, as I said, yes, mine crust. You do, to use the Viva, to do this, what I'm going to show you right here, you do need a crusting buttercream, okay? Normally, I would let this sit for 10-15 minutes. I don't have that kind of jokes for you, so we're not going to do that. I'm just going to show you here and hope we're not sticking.
You got one more question.
Oh, we got one more question.
Well, you kind of answered the first part.
Okay.
Was asking, is this a crusting buttercream? Just
Okay.
answered. Do you ever let the cake rest between the crumb coat and finish coat?
Okay. Question asked, do I ever let this sit and rest between the crumb coat and the finish coat? No, I do not. Okay? I personally feel, especially if you have a crusting buttercream, you're more likely to pull icing back and have a mess than if you just keep working while everything's nice and soft. Okay? So with fondant smoother and the Viva, and I'm showing you using this both ways. You can use it down flat or up on its side, just depending on how tall your cake is. Hopefully, can you guys see that little ridge in there on the screen? Eric's going to try zooming in a little bit more. Does that show up? Where that is? That's where I pulled my spatula off. Okay? So, we're going to take our smoother here. And I'm not pressing very hard at all, you guys. I'm just kind of gently rubbing with that. Mark gone. Okay? So this is an amazing little trick just to smooth out your sides.
I do have another question, but I'm going to
Yes.
murder this name.
Okay.
Do you use...
Meringue.
Do I use meringue powder? No, I don't. Over the years, I decorated wedding cakes for, well, I say wedding, I did cakes period, but mainly wedding cakes. And I played with all kinds of different recipes while I was, getting mine set where I wanted it. I tried meringue powder, but it never, I don't know, I guess I didn't notice that much of a difference with it to want to be using it. So that's just, but I encourage everyone, play with different recipes, see what you like, see what your family likes. There are hundreds of thousands of recipes probably out there online. If you try, even if after I post the one I give out here in the store, if you try that and you don't like it, I take no offense. Go try something else though. Don't just quit. Okay? Tweak things, make them your own. that honestly is one of the reasons I don't give out a lot of my cake recipes. I don't want a world full of just Burger Kings or just McDonald's or whatever. I would rather encourage you, give you ideas for ways to tweak your stuff, but I want everyone to do their own thing, okay? Now, once I've got the cake iced, one thing I want to show you real quick. Is, again, back to our T-pin that we used on our wraparound strip on our cake pan, okay? Have another one, get a new one, sanitize it, but keep it dedicated for this, okay? Walk back around here because this is something we'll want to zoom in on. But I don't know if you've ever seen pictures or if you've had the issues where your cakes look like a little gremlin was inside and just did a big puff of air and blew out the side of your icing. Okay, I had that happen many, many, many years ago. One of my first cakes I went to deliver, I opened up the hatch on my van and all I could do not to cry. Okay, figured out what's going on here. There's gases inside your cake, all right? Not a bad thing, it's just chemical reactions. You've got baking soda, baking powder, whatever in there. You're gonna have gases inside. It needs to breathe. So I will go spots where I'm likely gonna cover. So if I'm doing a border on the top, I'll go around here, typically like 4 different spots. I'm poking, I call them my little breathe holes. Okay? If I were doing, let me swap a tip here and show you something real quick. Okay, so I'm going to throw a tip 2 on here real quick, just to show you. And I'm going to grab a chair. I'm going to try and bend down to do that. I would be in tears. Okay, so again, I move that down because I don't want to be squeezing so much and put pressure on my hand. All right, but if you were going to do something like Swiss dots, all right, we're just going to squeeze. That's 3 little dots. Okay. Now I will tell you, this is like really killing me to do this just freehand like this, because honest to goodness, anytime I did this on a cake, I would go around with a measuring stick or a tape measure. I had it all set up, and then I would take my little pin and I would mark 1 inch and 3 inches and 2 inches. I would divide my cake up evenly to make sure these were all completely even. Yes, I really am that OCD about my decorating. But we're not going to do that today. So, if you were doing a design, something like this, for example, if you had some sort of piping on there, then I would go back in and just gently do that, right behind one of them. And if you pull it back off like that, put your dot back on right underneath that hole so there's still room for it to breathe. Okay? If you were just doing some sort of scroll work or something, okay, put all your pattern work on there, then go back through and just put a couple breathe holes in it. One thing you want to watch out for though, like we have filling in here, do not run a straight, don't go in straight right at the center where you've got your filling, okay? If you do that, we put raspberry in here, I would have a little red drip running down the side of my cake before too long. So you want to go at an angle, and also be sure, again, that you're somewhere where you're not getting filling wanting out. You just want to let some air out, okay? And then, oh my gosh, we've got almost an hour. You guys, I'm sorry. I thought this was going to be a quick little half hour, 45-minute most thing. I do have one more thing I just want to show you. Let's see. All right, I will do it this direction. I normally pipe the other direction, but I'll do it this way so you guys can see. Okay, so when you're putting, a lot of times I've watched videos, or if I've been in classes or different, I've seen a lot of cakes out at cake shows or judging or whatever. I will see where people, if they're doing a dot border at the bottom, they'll sit here and do this. Okay, can you guys see the tips on all those? Does that show up on camera, hopefully?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. So, as an alternative, if you come off to the side, pipe your dot. Okay, your tip is right there. You're going to cover that up with your next pipe. Okay? So just that quick and easy little tip and trick. You can go from that to looking like you've got a real string of beads there, where you don't see that tip on there. If you do like with these Swiss dots, and I'll do this with a big one so you can see a little bit better. So if you just pipe that and pull out, you're going to get more, again, the Hershey Kiss look. If you pipe it, stop your pressure, and just do a gentle swirl, you can knock most of that off. Okay, can you see the difference there, hopefully?
To the side
I'll zoom in a
there.
little bit more.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, now you can see it.
So up here is where I just pulled out, and you're going to see that tip. Down here is where I piped and just did a gentle swirl to kind of knock the tip off, okay? So if you do that with your small dots too, you're not going to see them. But another thing you can do is dip your fingertip in some cornstarch if you've got all these little peaks, and you could go back and just gently tap that back down. Again, like I said, with some cornstarch or even some powdered sugar, just dip your finger in and tip those, and you can get rid of those that way too. However, that is something you'll want to do after it crusts over a little bit. Okay? All right, any more questions before we go today? Nothing. Okay.
Hold on, give him a minute.
So, tomorrow, I'll back up here. Our cake that is in the oven right now, I was going to put some fondant on. However, I got to thinking, let's do some cake pops. So, tomorrow, we've got our chocolate cake that's in the oven right now. We're going to do cake pops. Hopefully, I will see some of you back then. And again, I thank you so much for joining me. Give us, like I said, 15, 20 minutes. Hopefully, I will have a buttercream icing recipe online for you. If you have any other questions, please feel free. Go back and post them. I'll keep an eye on the video after we upload it to the page. And just put your questions below in the comments. I'm more than happy to answer and help you with what I can. Thanks so much. Have a great day.